Welcome to The Fall to Grace, a podcast where my friend Connor and I hope to bring a grounded, practical approach to mystic wisdom. We believe this path requires a little help along the way. The more we share stories, inspiration, and techniques with one another, the better we all will be for it. This introductory episode is just dipping our toes into the water, but we're excited to more deeply engage with guests and topics moving forward. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Let's get started.
Hi, Cyan.
Hi. So, Connor, what are we doing here today?
We're talking about spirituality, and we're going to talk about it in a way that I hope listeners haven't heard before. I think the crux of this issue, or at least as I see it, is that there's a few paths that we have presented to us as we embark upon our own form of this journey. And we're all on this journey, whether we know it or not. And we're filling these needs every which way we can, as we seek out meaning in our lives. We are embarking on a spiritual journey. Many of us turn to our jobs, many of us turn to our relationships, many of us turn to our friendships, families, things like that. But they've never really done the trick. And that's what this is about, is finding something bigger than those things in a way that you may not have thought of before.
Yeah, the way we see it, spirituality these days seems to kind of have two distinct tracks you can go down. There's a very woo-woo approach, which tends toward the ephemeral, Lululemon and big wide-brimmed hats, etc. Maybe you go to Sedona for a, sound bath retreat extravaganza. And then there's a very religious approach, which tends towards the moralistic. And truth be told, neither Connor nor I really resonate with either of these paths. We believe there's kind of a secret third way, and that's what we want to talk about here. A version of spirituality that sort of bridges the gap and empowers individuals to live spiritually and connected without feeling alienated by the other approaches.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I just think the problem here is that the worst people are the people who claim to be spiritual, and they often fall in those camps. The idea that Christian conservatism is our primary outlet for our spirituality in our culture is really off-putting for many people. Any kind of idea of spirituality or any kind of idea of religion or ritual just immediately brings up some Christian church where you have to fall in line and where you have to have certain values and you have to do certain things, and it's all the worst people in the congregation.
And maybe you've been hurt as a child by a congregation or by evangelical Christianity. Now you have a bad taste in your mouth. You don't want to engage with it as an adult.
It does seem to do more harm than good when we look at it from many perspectives. And then if you flip to the other camp, you just have these people who are talking about crystals and who are talking about ayahuasca ceremonies and who are doing microdoses of mushrooms every single day and really lording it over you how much more spiritual and enlightened they are than you. So the reason I think we're making this is because you and I have really found something that's not necessarily either of those things and is also in some ways both of those things, and just talking about how much it has impacted our lives and really bringing that kind of journey to somebody else. If this helps one person, it's done its job. If this can open your eyes just a little bit, it's done its job. This is not about creating a path for you to follow. It's about helping you find a path that suits you. And there's a lot of questions that go into that, and there's a lot of questions that come out of this. And trying to live a spiritual life is a fundamental shift in how we live our lives. And it requires a ton of help. It requires people along the way to guide you. In a sense, this is what this is about, is being able to answer questions, being able to think about these things and integrate them into our lives. Not just hear it and move on, but really hear it and sit with it and bring that into your daily life, which is what spirituality to me is all about.
Yeah, that's the reason I sort of got into all this in the first place, is I really needed a way to contextualize the experiences I was having and the pain that I was feeling and the grief I was feeling in certain points of my life through some sort of framework. And the spiritual frameworks that were available to me really just didn't click. I needed something different. And not one single one of us gets out of this thing without encountering that grief that I'm describing. So I think we can all stand to make sense of it more. Sometimes we encounter things that seem to make us genuinely happy in the moment, like getting a new car, but then inevitably what happens, or I should say, what do we make of it when the windows of our car get smashed or when we get into a car accident? I think living a spiritual life to me means beginning to forgive the world for being exactly what it is, which is a place full of pain, but also full of joy. you start to make peace with the fullness of the experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. When you begin to do that through a framework of your own making or through a framework that you find that's maybe not one of the two traditional paths that we kind of talked about, or maybe it is, it's up to you. But once you begin to do that, you also begin to forgive and accept the good and the bad and the ugly within yourself as well.
It's so funny how some of us get here. I mean, it is so, you never, ever, ever arrive to this path on like a winning streak. You're never showing up because you're just so overjoyed with life that you're looking for more meaning. It's like, no, you have to like experience a significant amount of pain and a significant amount of suffering in order to start to ask some of these questions. Like, what does it all mean? And why are we here? And what the fuck is this that I'm just suffering? Right. And that's what's so powerful about this and so impactful about leading a spiritual life is it's that alchemy of turning that suffering into something greater than yourself and turning that into your story. I have obviously a similar story here where I was just a raging alcoholic, but also I was so disenchanted with the world and its people. I was so furious at how this whole American society was set up. And I was so turned off by just like this capitalist American dream of like the white picket fence and the wife and kids and a dog equaling happiness. Like that equation in my mind never set right. And that frustration, even right there, just like knowing that the best thing I was going to get was like a 3-story house and a couple kids. I mean, I really thought if that was the option for me, that I wanted to die. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, that's the progenesis of this entire spiritual journey for me, is this fundamental frustration with life as it is, and with existence as it is, and with society as it is, and with people as they are, and things like that. But as it is kind of all there is. I mean, spirituality to me is about finding a way to win. And that's what this podcast to me is about finding a way to get through this and to get through it well and to get through it joyfully. And I found a lot of that along this path.
So, what does it mean to win?
I mean, you said it. This is a very difficult experience. Like the human life is a very difficult experience. Most of our experiences involve more inconvenience and more suffering than joy. I mean, most of our experiences in our day-to-day life are stressful. We are plagued by like financial insecurity. We're plagued by personal insecurity. We are living in a world where we are getting through the day. Finding a way to win is about enjoying your day and making meaning out of your day and growing as an individual. That is the only way I am getting through this life. And it's the only way I've found to get through this life is to make something out of it. And that something out of it is not like some hugely successful company. And it's not having nice shit. That something is like something that sits in my heart and really creates this profound value that I have in this connection.
Yeah. Connor, I'm quoting you here, once said this thing that's always stuck with me about how we are both our own prisoner and our own jailer. That's what our mind does. It puts us in a prison. And so when we like kind of make the choice to get freedom, which is of course a practice, that's what we're practicing here. It is profound. And then you start to be able to enjoy the fullness of the experience. You start to be able to include the grace that comes from pain, as well as the joy that is, of course, temporal in nature.
And that's fundamentally what's different about this. And it's what's different about a spiritual life, is that much of our lives is about adding things to it. It's about getting a relationship. It's about getting a family. It's about getting a house. This is about shedding things. And I didn't know that I needed to shed nearly as much as I have. I didn't know that I needed to kind of shed my insecurities and that I needed to really come to grips with my own fear and my own sense of unworthiness more than anything, like my own sense of unlovability, that if I don't accomplish this or if I don't get that job, that I'm not enough. And so much of my life before trying to lead a spiritual life was about that. It was about proving to other people that I had value, and my value was seen through their eyes. My value today comes through my own eyes, and I do things for myself rather than for the image you have of me, which is a fundamental shift in how I was living. This took some time, and it took some patience, and it took a lot of thought, and it took a lot of energy to figure this out. And it will for everybody. It's terrifying, and it's overwhelming exactly how much we have to do here and what kind of work it is. And we've never sat with this kind of work. And those people who kind of wear crystals around their necks all the time and tell you they're doing the work, you can kind of get that sense that they're not. Like, this is the authenticity that we're seeking on the spiritual path. Like, the spiritual path is all about authenticity, and being able to find that in yourself is what this entire life seems to be about to me, is about expressing the most authentic version of myself. And I can't find that while I have this problem that you were talking about. When my mind it has kept me trapped and won't let me escape, I don't find authenticity. I find things that I think you'll like, but I don't find the things that I like. And that's a minefield that you're walking through. And that's the minefield that I want to help people navigate. That's the minefield I do help people navigate all the time. The mind field.
Yeah. I mean, we sound like we're being so pejorative, people with crystals around their neck. Do it if it feels actually authentic. I don't even care. I think if it sounds like we're judging that kind of woo woo person, I think it's because we both spend so much time trying to like seek and destroy the inauthentic parts of ourselves in our minds. And so, yeah, we sound like Holden Caulfield calling out everyone phonies.
No. I love that shit. I absolutely eat that shit up. I do. And I love sitting in a ceremony, and I love having these conversations and sitting in circles and passing sticks and doing the whole thing. I do. But I didn't love that shit for a very long time. And I was like very off put by that stuff because I could tell that many of the people who were sitting in those circles didn't necessarily act the way they talked. They would say certain things and leave the circle and immediately go be a different person. Immediately get frustrated with some small thing, immediately get frustrated that they weren't getting their way. And that really almost turned me off. I mean, it took me out of this. What I was seeking was genuine presence and authenticity and freedom from fear. And what I was finding was inauthentic people who were talking about those things. And that was really hard for me. And this is the same with religion. I mean, when I even started to seek God, you start to go to these communities and you see that very few people actually have this thing. Like, it's not just about being in the place and going to the things and doing the practice. If you do any of those things, fantastic, wonderful. But you can go to hell through the doors of a temple just as easily as you can go to hell on the streets. I mean, it is a minefield because this is all about the ego and where the ego goes. So when my ego starts to highly identify with how spiritual I am, I'm so far off the mark. I am fucked if I'm just thinking about, wow, I am so spiritual. I am so out of touch with reality at that point. And a lot of people like to live there because our ego is our comfortable place. And what we realize on this path is that the ego is the jailer and that the ego is keeping us bound and keeping us from the real joy that is promised by these paths. So as we like embark on this and as we have these conversations, the idea is to crack us open and be able to receive a lot of different stuff. Do all of these things, absolutely, but only the things that resonate with you. Like, I want to provide a space and courage more than anything for people to be able to try these things and to feel their way through these things. Don't just go to one meditation class. Don't just go to one church service and look for the differences and immediately be turned off. Be willing to go try different traditions. Be willing to try different techniques and find the ones that resonate with you, because if it resonates with you, that's the sign of the divinity of it, right? This is about your authentic connection with that divine, whatever it is. It's different for all of us. And anybody who tells you it has to be one way is so far off the path. So we need voices and we need friends and we need community that can encourage us along the way, because there's also a lot of things that discourage you. And so not being discouraged is what this is about. This is finding a way to win.
You should just find the flavor of ice cream that you like. And don't let anyone tell you that it's not good. And Connor and I have both had really cool experiences with ayahuasca. So we're like a little woo woo, but I feel like we both come from kind of a thinking background, or we like to think of ourselves as thinkers. That's another ego trap, but that's fine. I'm rolling with it. Yeah, our ego trips us up in so many ways, and spirituality is just one of them, but it's no different from being obsessed with money and how much money you have and how cool of a high-rise apartment you have and anything.
I mean, we do this with everything. This is the tendency of the mind. And this is why it's such like there's nobody's fault that this happens, and you're not a bad person if you identify heavily with money, or you identify with how attractive you are, or you identify with how successful you are. This is not anybody's fault, but those paths are fruitless and they are painful. And those people who get to the end of the road often find that there's nothing there. Elon Musk talks about this sometimes. Whatever your opinion is of the dude, he comes out and says, I am the most lonely person on the planet. I am so sad. And it's because he's just put his ego behind his wealth. I mean, he has anything he could ever want, and yet finds himself miserable. This is the end of those paths. And yet we still pursue them because we're deluded by our minds into thinking that one day, when I just have the extra zero in my bank account, I'll be happy. I'll just be comfortable enough. And then we get there and the goalpost has moved. So if that's what's happening every single time we hit a goal, the goalpost has just moved further down the road. We have to recognize that that's what's happening. And we have to understand that the goalpost is always going to move. And so what's the alternative? And this is the alternative, is to find more comfort in not knowing and not having things, getting rid of some of those qualifications that our ego sells us. That I will be good enough when I'm rich enough. I will be good enough when I'm successful enough. I will be good enough when I have the relationship. Getting out of that trap. I mean, this is about being able to breathe. More than anything, the spiritual journey is about peace. And most of us have never experienced peace. Most of us have experienced a lot of comfort, but we've never had peace. Our mind will continue to torture us. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. You don't even enjoy the comfort. It feels like a losing game, but there is a way to win. And that's finding.
We all want our minds to be a place that we feel we can hang out, because we do hang out there all the time.
Yeah. What does your mind do to you?
What does my mind do to me? My mind tells me I'm not good enough. I seem to love shame spirals that go into doom spirals. I've historically been a nihilist. That's the other thing that I would say about me finding this path is I definitely came to this path from nihilism. It was like nihilism to absurdism to just kind of a general curiosity about Eastern spirituality. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to many potlucks per month and I'm making a podcast.
So many potlucks.
So many potlucks on this path, you guys.
What did the nihilism mean to you?
I just felt so unimportant. And I felt that I was experiencing so much pain, and yet that pain had no meaning. And so then what's the point? I couldn't see any meaning in it at all. I couldn't make any sense of it. And that's a very uncomfortable place to be.
That's a sick place to be. That's such a good place to be.
It is, because it brings you to your knees, so to speak. That's when you can really kind of get somewhere. But at the time, it's horrible. And yeah, if I look back at my life, I can really see a pattern that I have been seeking truth this whole time. When I was a kid, I felt so strange compared to my peers in not such a good way.
You're still pretty strange compared to your peers.
I went on a Hinge date and this man said, this was my one and only Hinge date ever. I'm never doing this again, probably. But he was like, you're a pretty strange girl. And I was like, wow, I think you're a pretty uninteresting guy. So thank you, Sean. But that's okay. I feel like that's given me a really unique perspective. My whole life, I've kind of been on the outside looking in like an alien. And I feel, well, I've also gotten the feedback that I'm kind of like a ghost, just like slinking in and out of spaces. My ex-boyfriend used to say that his favorite thing about me is he could take me absolutely anywhere, like a bar full of, big burly biker dudes or like a fancy art gallery opening. And I would just be able to kind of make friends with anyone and understand anyone's perspective. And it's just because I'm on this this quest for truth, this quest for truth anywhere I can find it. And actually I've found it everywhere I've looked for it. I've worked tons of odd jobs and worked jobs that some people would consider to be kind of morally gray. I've gotten to travel a lot because of that, just gotten to kind of meet interesting people and go interesting places and live many different lives, I feel like. And that's been pretty cool. I think that's given me access to like a kind of non-dual perspective that's made that jump easy for me. Yeah, truth is everywhere you look for it, you know?
What that says to me right there, and the common thread through that was a willingness to look, right? A willingness to seek and a willingness to like ask yourself what these things mean to you. This is the thing that we avoid like the plague. I mean, we stay so far away from ourselves because we indulge so heavily in the promise that this will deliver the happiness that I've been seeking, that this will deliver the comfort that I'm seeking. And so we blindly do these things. We don't live very consciously. And many spiritual practitioners and seekers will tell you this, right? The problem is that we're not living in the present moment, that we're thinking about the thing that's going to bring us joy in the future, and we're thinking about the things that brought us pain or suffering in the past. And so we kind of live in this like hope and fear constant dance, right? Where we just are jumping from one puddle to the other. But when we do live consciously, I mean, when we sit present with our present experience and ask ourselves, why am I not enjoying this? Or like, what about this is totally rubbing me the wrong way? Like that is the essence of this growth. And that is where we find the meaning is in those answers to those questions, the answers that we're answering for ourselves, right? Like we're asking something within us. What is wrong? And when we can really do that, we do create that meaning. And if you're listening at home and you've never had this sensation of like, oh, fuck, that's what that was. Like, oh, I wasn't supposed to be in that relationship. Like, oh, I wasn't supposed to be in that job. And that's a feeling that's coming from your soul. It's representing the most authentic you. And that is the feeling that I live for. And that is the feeling that I get all of the time on this path because I'm constantly asking those questions. I'm constantly watching my mind to see what it is. But I didn't know I had to watch my mind. I didn't know that. Like, this is the most ridiculous idea. It's like, oh, you got to constantly be watching your own thoughts. It's like, no, I am my thoughts. But as I've worked through this kind of path and as I've moved down it, I've started to see that this is happening without me. My mind is going, whether I am putting energy into it or not. And that fundamental realization that like this thing is cooking, whether I'm hungry or not, changed everything. And that's when I started being able to ask those questions of myself. Why is my mind racing right now? Why am I in a shame spiral? Like, what is the core thing here? It's not about the relationship I lost or the job that I lost. It's about my self worth. And so being able to find my self worth elsewhere in the most authentic expression of it, I find peace and I find comfort. And in that, I find joy. And joy is just really being able to really sit in those things and not be afraid of losing it, not being afraid that I'm not doing enough. It's really just being here now, which is what Ram Dass was all about.
Yeah. Not being afraid of losing it, but also recognizing that you will. And that's okay.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reality that we have to come to grips with in this path, but it's the true reality. I mean, you're really standing on something when you can confront the impermanent nature of all things, which I'm sure we'll talk about down the line. But to sit with these ideas and really understand what they mean for you is how you move forward.
So, what's the point?
So many of us have been seeking without knowing that we're seeking. Put all of our hopes in the relationship and we put our hopes in the job and we put our hopes in the bank account because those things offer security and we seek security and we seek comfort over everything. And the problem when we seek security and we seek comfort is that we rarely find it and that when we do, we can't enjoy it because it has no meaning. So we are left with a real hole and like a pit in our stomach. You know, the trips didn't do it. The job didn't do it. The school didn't do it. The personal relationships didn't do it. And we still feel fucked at the end of the day. This is the start of a spiritual journey, is understanding that those things won't ever give it to you. Those things are all out there. The real fulfillment comes from in here. And this is the thing that we've been so afraid to explore. Because this is the thing that tells us we're not worth it. That tells us that we'll never find people who love us or will never be valued for what we do or who we are. And that's where we need to go. We need to attack the problem at the source. And that's what we're going to do here. I mean, I love talking to people about their problems and giving them new ways to think about them. I love talking to people about their lives and getting to the crux of the issues. When we get to the core of what people are feeling, we can really work with it and we can affect change. Like, so nothing changes when we do things out here. I mean, wherever you go, there you are. This is the old spiritual adage. I can go to Bali tomorrow, but I'm still Connor in Bali. I'm still all the neuroses that are Connor. I'm still all the fear that is Connor. I'm still all the inadequacies that are Connor. It's just it's a more colorful environment. So it's about changing Connor. And the new Connor would enjoy Bali far more. So, I mean, one thing I do want to do here is encourage people to send us messages. Tell us about your lives. Are you having a problem in a personal relationship? Are you having like a philosophical dilemma? Are you having an existential one? Are you having a problem communicating something to someone? Like, these are the problems that I want to talk about. I promise you that we'll have a different take on these things and give you an answer that you never thought of before. But the answer isn't even the goal here. It's the process, because the process is the alchemy. And as we do the process more and more, that's how we change. And that's how we find the fulfillment. That's how we find the peace.
One of the primary motivators for this podcast has been the growth that we've both experienced being in community, sharing and spending time with good friends who connect to something larger than ourselves. We hope to bring that same energy here. The two of us are friends, each walking our own path, and we're exploring what we can do to help move each other along. Like Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home. Through casual conversation about ideas great and small, interviews with teachers and seekers just like us, and persistent revelations or experiences in our lives, we hope to bring community to you. We are increasingly disconnected, and we want to bring our sense of community-driven growth to listeners who may not have similar opportunities in their local communities, as well as those who are searching for more exploration in their spiritual lives. We've met a lot of really interesting people on this path, haven't we?
Yeah, there's a lot more along the way. So it all gets a little more interesting when you lean in.
It does. It all takes on a little more color. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys. If you liked any of this, please feel free to subscribe. Please feel free to leave us a comment. Like I said, I would love to talk to you guys about your lives. The growth here always comes from our own lives. So if you have a problem in your life, if you have a question for one of us, put it in a comment, put it in a message, and we'll talk about it on these episodes. I mean, one of the biggest things here is going to be connecting and creating this community. I've never created a viral community, but we've created some really good communities around us. So let's see what happens on the internet, I suppose. And thank you guys. Love you.
Thank you. We love you. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can find us on Instagram at The Fall to Grace. And like Connor said, feel free to ask us anything. See you next week.